Welcome to the Intelligence Amplifiers, podcast that celebrates the people who make the intelligence a collective superpower. In every episode, we uncover the stories of learning and development leaders who amplify knowledge, break down silos, and empower teams to thrive. These are the enablers of insight, the ones turning expertise into action and shaping the future of work by ensuring that the right knowledge reaches the right people at the right time. So, if you're ready to explore how the intelligence is amplified and shared across organizations, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hello, and welcome to the latest episode of Intelligence Amplifiers. Today, we're talking to Mabelle Bong from Instacart. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Marco?
I'm doing
Thanks for
well.
having me.
Yeah, great to have you. Great to have you here. I wanted to learn a little bit about your journey. Obviously, you're doing some really interesting work today at Instacart. But you started, I believe, your career way earlier as a researcher at Stanford, right?
Yeah,
And
I started working in research and psychology in college in the research area. Yeah, so I started off doing
Mhm.
research lab work. Really enjoyed it. Right after that, got out of college, trying to figure out what was going to be next. Um, Long story short, I found a job, thought I would like it, didn't love it, kind of got lost. Ended up being in an outreach and education program at a nonprofit in San Jose. And
Mhm.
that's where I really found my love for education and training before I
Got
went
it.
to tech.
By coincidence, fell into education through getting that job at the nonprofit. Um,
Yes, that's right.
Got it. And what led to going to tech, right? I know you. I believe you worked at Stripe for a while.
Yes.
Was that the first tech experience?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. That was my first experience in the tech world. After I worked at this nonprofit, I really enjoyed um doing outreach work and education work there, where I really got my chops for more curriculum design and learning about, how to facilitate. I got into tech because I frankly wanted to move to San Francisco and thought, let's see what the tech industry is all about. And so I started off applying, and I found the role at Stripe that just sounded perfect. I started off there as an education coordinator, and it was a contract role when I joined, and I thought it was again perfect because I just wasn't sure if I was going to like what I was doing or like the field, or I just wasn't sure. And so I thought this was a good, stepping stone into this sort of world, and without sort of the pressures necessarily. If I didn't like it, I got a year and then I'll be out. But lo and behold, I loved the work that I did. I think I told my manager then, I think like 3 months in, I was like, so what would it take me to convert into a full-time employee? And that's kind of how I got into the world. They found a position for me, which was awesome.
Awesome. And what's some of the biggest learnings out of being a coordinator at Stripe?
Oh gosh, um I learned that the things that you are going to be able to do at a place where it has just immense amount of people who are just so intelligent and care about the work they were doing. Um, I learned I learned from a lot of people who ended up being really close friends of mine and still are. I met one of my best friends, now still from Stripe. Just like incredibly smart people who come from all facets of life. And I don't even mean like networking. I really learned just how to be like a better person, and also just learn, just thinking about L&D and the world that we're in, Marco, is like, um, I just got to learn all of the foundations to the um, different ways to think about learning adult theory that I just wouldn't have been able to get exposure to. Um, because of my background, not traditionally coming right from a teaching or education background. I also learned this was the first role where, I came into the coordinator role specifically to help run an engineering onboarding program. That was my focus. That was sort of like not even onboarding project. That was what I was hired for. But then, expanded naturally to saying, hey, there's other needs for operations support across our other programs. And Stripe is, a huge global company, or at least a global company with like a lot of programming. I just started to raise my hand for a lot of things that I really did not feel like I had the experience for, but said, here's what I can bring, which is my ability to be, detail oriented, meticulous. I can coordinate. I can figure out, and learn really quickly.
Mhm.
Here's what I want to learn from you. Just how can I help so that I can get involved? I basically just got the chance to be exposed to so many different types of work. It's how I got into more global onboarding programs. It's how I got my exposure to leadership development and coaching and manager development. That's like now my focus area at Instacart. It's because I both was asked to and was able to raise my hand. And so I guess the learning there, all that to say is, like really try to put yourself out there, like really highlight the things that you like to do and your strengths, even in situations where you may not know like the other 90% of the work. Like come in
Mhm.
strong. And if you want to learn, you're going to be able to do that just by sheer exposure and asking for the chance, right? And asking for help along the way. So it was I think the jump into the tech world felt very big to me. And that's what I was really excited to come talk to you anyways about this, because I don't feel like I came into like the job market looking for like a tech role. I'm like, I'm not technically savvy. I'm not an engineer. And I even said that in my position, maybe not a really wise interviewing um, moment where I said, I'm not an engineer, right? Like I'm not a coder. And they're like, no, we don't need that. We need someone to help run XYZ thing. And I was like, oh, I can do that. And I'll learn the rest. So, just learning to figure out and put yourself out there was, a big learning of mine at Stripe.
Got it. So not only you jumped into a tech company, but you also took on onboarding tech people at the tech.
Yes.
The yeah, how particular is engineering onboarding? Like we deal with
Mm,
a lot with that across the company. So I'm kind of
yes.
curious, um, how are engineers special? And
It's just a different set of like learning objectives, right?
Mhm.
Sorry, Stripe did and probably still has, but I can't speak. It's been like what, 5 years since I've been there. 4 years. We had a global onboarding program, and this program I was starting to help run was sort of a follow-up to support engineers. Like, okay, you've had your onboarding. Now here's like what it looks like to work at Stripe as an engineer. Um, I think it's sort of it's the type of like, I don't want to say special attention. It's sort of like when you come in and you're a salesperson or you're an HR, you're an engineer, like there's just different things you got to be onboarded to. And I think it was really wise for Stripe to have like a engineer onboarding programs, but also because of like what type of company Stripe is. Um, and in this case, the program was about like really mentorship and not just
Mm,
traditional like workshops for engineers. And again, I can't speak to it now, but then it wasn't just like, here's an hour-long workshop on engineering, what's our code base, blah, blah, blah. It was like a mentorship program from the
mm,
beginning of someone's on sort of time at Instacart, which I thought was like really fascinating. And it really got me to really get to know some really incredible, subject matter experts who are both passionate about, being an software engineer, and also being educators and really helping people get on board and learn, and also learn from the people who have fresh eyes, right? Coming into the company, to be, software engineers. So, the learning objectives were different. I think frankly, more companies should do types of onboarding for specific roles like that. I think it would help A lot of people really spin up into the role and the culture, right, of a company faster. If they have a little bit more support and education during their first 90 days.
You got it. And a couple of, I mean, where I was going with that question is the modality really. On one hand,
Hmm.
like traditional learning would be SCORM-based files, learning, something like that. Uh, but it seems like for engineers, flipping slides doesn't really resonate, right? So it's more mentorship, as you mentioned, workshops, so it's heavier on that person to person
Hmm. Yeah.
connection than solo e-learning kind of experience, right?
Yeah. 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 I mean, there's a place for all of it, right? Like there's purposes for e-learning and SCORM files, like you said. There's purposes for the slides and the presentations. And I think that in this case, this was more hands-on and learning how to collaborate, like getting into the code base, right? That type of hands-on approach, both from a personal standpoint, but also within the actual, work. And I think, then this was prior to COVID. People were going in the office most days of the week. And
Hmm.
so now I think, I was just talking about this with my team. uh, Obviously we all had to pivot the way we think about learning um, in the virtual world, and now we're sort of in this, I think, era of still having hybrid learning, still trying to figure out the virtual. I mean, this is your world, Marco. Like, I don't have to speak. I don't have to speak on this to you, but I think, in my personal opinion, like I think there is still very much a big appetite for the hands-on sort of like social learning, right?
Hmm.
And trying to find this balance of that, and also just like living in the world that we do now. It's not going to be the same it was prior to COVID. I I'm really grateful I got to work, at Stripe when I did, because and I was also at Stripe when COVID hit, and so I was in our office then, at the office in San Francisco, running a live program with like global managers flying in from all over the world. And I remember, that was like, everyone needs to turn back. This is actually a big problem that's happening right now. And so I was on both sides of, um, I felt like I was really experiencing, the impact it had in our world, right, Marco?
Yeah.
Very quickly, and needing to like pivot and say, we actually need to run this whole week long programming in one place. We got to run virtually for, you know, all time zones as quick as possible. Like that was also a big learning jump that we had to make. So,
Yeah, we also run Technocon, the community, and at that time, I remember having a number of talks from companies like LinkedIn, Uber, etc.,
mhm,
who specifically engineering onboarding. They had to basically reconfigure it from this like heavily live experience where engineers actually
yeah,
fly into the HQ, right?
right,
To now everything is online, and like what does that mean? And I think the conclusion was like you can't just take what you would do in a classroom and put it online on Zoom. It doesn't work.
no,
It's a different beast, and it requires some modifications. But it was also remarkable how quickly companies adapted.
yeah.
Sometimes weeks. Yeah,
When you're forced to, it's like we got it. There's no choice. We got to do it.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, I learned a lot about that, and that was a good. I'm glad I got to learn that, before transitioning over to Instacart. But yeah, what a learning curve we were all in
yeah,
at that
yeah.
time.
And then, and so you started with engineering onboarding, and then also at Stripe, I believe you did manager and leadership development programs, right?
Hmm.
And how was that different? Like, what was a different new set of challenges? Doing leadership and development, manager training
Hmm.
versus engineering onboarding.
Yeah, like pretty very
Uh-huh.
different initiatives. I again, like programming was for the most part in person then. I also helped coordinate and eventually more manage our the Stripe coaching program. That was also a mix of virtual and in person even before 2020. Um, the manager program and the leadership programs were, I think, to me, the biggest pivots in my career. to be where I'm at now because, I started coordinating programs. I started running manager development programs there, coordinating with my leaders who were, curriculum designing. They invited me to ideate. They invited me to like pretty much every part of the process of what it looks like to develop a program. Even though I wasn't in the seat to design the curriculum from scratch, I was a witness to all of it. I learned a lot. I helped think about the mechanics, right, and the operations, logistics, except the experience to like a big
Hmm.
part of that, right? Not
Hmm.
even just the coordination, but the experience. Um, and we had a manager program for more of the manager essentials like coaching skills, things like that, and then we also had a leadership development program for like leadership, not just management essentials. And so I I think that's where again I got the chance to learn what it took to lead such big global program that was expensive and like had a lot of pretty important people in the room, and it's a lot more pressure, and there's a lot more weight to it, right? Because onboarding or whatever, and onboarding may happen every 2 weeks, once a month or whatever it is. These programs maybe run, once a quarter, and there's a lot of things go behind it. It's a lot of expensive people in one room. And so, again, I got to really learn about um, both like how to make the experience really worthwhile to people, and also really get my really big exposure to what it means to design like impactful learning experiences through both the traditional ways you learn, but also bringing in like experts from universities, bringing in the social learning aspect, like finding ways for people to get off their laptops, like truly engage with each other in person. And that was, like I said, sort of the biggest for me, like, but being exposed to all of that, being invited to the ideation processes, the actual design work, it really set me up for success with being able to go over to Instacart and like manage and be responsible for delivering manager and leadership programs now. So,
Hmm.
um, yeah, I think that was like, I really see that moment as like a big step in just, building confidence and learning something that felt like much more scary. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I like that comment how it's very expensive. Those programs are very, very expensive.
yeah.
Uh, but the real expense is the time of the people,
Yes.
the attendees. That's the expense, right? And
Yes.
so making sure that they get their value is the key, right?
The time, the attention, the things they're not paying attention to in that
Yeah.
moment. Like, uh, you know, I, I wonder if you feel this too, Marcos. Like we have to fight for people's attention, like for why learning is so important. And something I've been coached on since I've been at Instacart with a few of my favorite managers is like, um, learning is like constant. And so when we think about designing these moments for like intentional learning, like these programmatic approaches, like what is really different from that? How are you going to make that experience both like like sort of meaningful and useful to them, and also for them to see that meaning and
Hmm.
usefulness too. And I think it's experience designing. It goes way beyond traditional L&D, formats. And that's the hard part, right? Is capturing, like you said, capturing and making sure people's time and attention are well deserved
Hmm.
in our work with learning. So um, I learned a lot about that.
And so obviously that brought you over to Instacart. And I'm curious, what did you see? What was exciting about Instacart and that opportunity there?
Yeah. What was exciting was I at my time at Stripe, I got to basically help run or coordinate most, if not all, of the programs at some point that we were offering at Stripe at the time. And I was just ready to really own something of my own and be able
Hmm.
to make the calls and develop more of the, just like being able to have the opportunity to be strategic and how I think about why we should do trial certain initiatives. So I got the chance to interview for just a senior program manager role at Instacart, specifically on manager development. That was like, again, the core focus, and sort of still is I've been in the Instacart for almost 5 years. Manager development, leadership development, whatever we want to call it, still like a big core focus of mine and my responsibilities. So I feel like I've really had the chance to like own the space and like iterate it like 1,000 times of what that looks like, because all companies change all the time. So that was enticing to me. I um I got to work when I first joined, got to work with a team that was just like the team at the time was also just not hasn't been around for a long time. So everyone was like really still trying to figure things out, but there was enough structure for me to come in and know like where I fit into everything. Um and I was just excited to like, have a fresh start and have a new, just kind of come in and saying like, I am not just known as the coordinator for all things L&D. I actually can get to own something, and that is what I get to like really focus on and bring to the table. And since then, I've had a chance to really like open up again manager development to leadership development to the current focus we have on AI enablement. I think I think Instacart has also been a place where I get to like pivot, and with all the things that change all the time, right? With these types of places like Instacart, like you just get a lot of opportunities to try new things and learn from them and then try again. So really manager development really caught my eye, and that's what I wanted to dive in the most to.
Mm-hmm. And you also, when we spoke earlier, you also made a distinction between manager training and leadership development.
Yes.
And I think manager training is, for the most, everyone's got it, and for the most part, it's kind of obvious. Yeah, it's a set of it's how-tos for people managers. But leadership development, I'm curious about, and specifically, I'm curious about that program being for individual contributors, because we talked about the distinction. Leadership is not necessarily having a reporting structure.
And in my experience, in my experience so far, philosophy, like on the philosophy side of things, like every manager not every manager is a leader, and not every leader is a manager, but managers should be leaders. And that's why, not surprising, and I think for arguably good reason, most leadership development programs focus on prioritizing people managers, right? I want to change that. I don't think there's just been enough investment in understanding how to think about developing leaders from any folks who, even if they're not in people management. I don't know. I feel like I'm preaching to the choir. It's almost like like management is a very specific set of, like you said, skills and also responsibilities. I think it's not surprising that a lot of companies ask a lot of managers to be leaders too, but those are two distinct sets of skills and mindsets, in my opinion. And they're easily muddled, and you can do that well. I think it's really obvious when it's not done well. And it also just doesn't give opportunities to those who like don't want to be people managers, right? That's just like not the thing they want to do, and yet they are like highly impactful, have great ideas, have like great new fresh approaches to strategy and execution work. We lose those folks if we don't invest in them. I again, in my limited experience so far in this world, I don't know I can't think of a program or a company that's like really done that very well, and that's something I would love to like be a part of and bringing to Instacart, but also any other role I ever take in the future. right now we're running a program where we support AI champions across the organization. They represent how to bring AI to their functions and to drive AI forward for the company. And it wasn't a criteria that they would be people managers. Like, they needed to be of a certain level and impact. But I really like that that wasn't a thing we considered, like whether they're managers or not. I think that type of leadership forum, like leadership enablement, even if it's not called leadership development, that's still a leadership, program initiative. That's the type of thing I'm like, I don't want us to just think about like how to develop leadership through manager development or leadership development. Like, there's so many ways to create initiatives and experiences where you really support and highlight leaders without making it just about like specific set of manager skills or leadership
Mm-hmm.
skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Not yeah, I like that distinction between managers and leaders. I remember I've been seeing, is going back to engineers. I've been seeing this anti-pattern that engineers at some point need to become managers, engineering managers, right? Because it's considered quote unquote promotion, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And we have to kind of clarify that it's not a promotion; it's actually a lateral move. Like, as a
Yep.
people manager, you're not promoted. You're, if anything, you're probably slightly demoted. And it's a totally
I
different
mean,
job.
that's the thing. It's a totally different job. You gotta like
Yeah.
onboard a very, very different way. And I also know that's a huge misconception. Like, I've experienced that too. And it's just like, it's disappointing because it's like, do you actually, that's why I get a lot of, in my time at Instacart, I've gotten a lot of questions like, hey, I'm interested in like developing my leadership skills. I think my next step is people management. Can you send me some resources? And my first question is always like, that's awesome. Tell me more about like what excites you about people management. Or do you not know the answer yet? Like, here's some other resources. It's not just the how-tos. It's actually like better exposing yourself to like what management really is. It's a trap when you just send them over to, here's some management skills development, go. And they don't like, there's so many ways you can use coaching and feedback, but you should really explore more like why that interests you. And if it's to your point, like really about like, I just want to get promoted, it's like, okay, but like why? Like why? And obviously without helping, trying to not make people feel defensive, but if there is no clarity in that, we want to make sure that's part of my job, being able to like bring people to like what makes most sense to them with what their true goals are and their true motivations are, without doing the paper cut, sort of paper, what's it called?
Cookie cutting.
Cookie cutting, yes.
Yeah.
Sort of like promotion equals management, right?
Yeah.
We gotta like stop that.
Yeah, exactly. And so we ended up, this is a Twitter, we ended up creating a leadership program for ICE, right? So for individual
That's awesome.
yeah, and we got inspired by some work that Google did, and I think LinkedIn as well. But it was a totally different set of skills, and to your point, mindset. I think it's a very different mindset. And so we invested in that, basically. How do we develop individual contributors who are leaders?
That's amazing. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I'm curious, what does your leadership program look like today, or how do you envision it?
Oh, like if I were to start one from scratch, or the one
Yeah.
like the ones if I were to start one from scratch?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh. If I'm thinking about a leadership development program for Instacart,
Yeah.
I would approach it from, how do we define leadership? Sorry, this is what does that mean to the business? What does it mean to be recognized as a leader? Like, okay, we have the definitions of what a leader is. Is that actually how leadership is recognized and rewarded? So I think I wouldn't want to start with like the skills where it's like managing through change or strategic thinking. Like that will come later. I think what matters most when you start at any place is like, actually, like in reality, how are leaders defined? How are they recognized? And what is the true reality of that? that's where you should start. I think I don't know if this is actually your question, Marco, but if you're like, you don't have to write this for Instacart, it can be any leadership program you'd want to write. It would be focusing on individual contributors, those who are like, have shown impact or interest or have like, whatever that sort of like definition of leadership may look like. I would want to research more into that, but I would want to prioritize those who maybe like are leaders, but maybe just aren't sure where to go next. And focus on that. It's also why, like, not surprising. This is where like coaching can be such a really fulfilling field to go in. And so, I want to my plan is to get officially certified as a coach one day, but I think like that is like one-on-one leadership development. I think programmatically, it can be really focusing on hands-on social learning, right? Getting people to truly like self-reflect and not just think about the how-tos, the hard skills, like that's a part of it, but I don't think it's the focus. It's really about that mindset shift, self-awareness, right? Seeing the impact that you make in the world. That type of focus is what I would want to lean on. Yeah, I could keep going on and on, but there's a lot of like the philosophy first before we go into like curriculum building, right?
Yeah. And to your point, it's a mindset. It's a totally different mindset. So very cool. And it sounds like one of the examples of that is your AI champion program, right? Like that's very empowering ICs among other people to lead how you adopt AI.
It's they're all like really well accomplished ICs and managers. Like it's a mix. That's why I like this program a lot. It's a mix of leaders across the business who represent specific functions, and they've been involved in AI enablement and really leading the charge through functions. And so we said, hey, let's think about how do we think about AI enablement as a company, and not just for one org, right? Not just for sales or engineering or finance. How do we think about, this very like huge just moment in our industry and the world? And how do we think about that as like one movement, right? As for the business. So it's a mix of people who are managers and ICs, but they're all leaders. And I am very, very, very humbly like a part of the group. I get to help manage the group, trying to like figure out like what does this look like, right? To work cross-functionally, how to make sure everyone's strengths are utilized, and for what we just, finish meeting with our CEO or our new coming CEO, Chris Rogers, about our vision. And that's public, so I can say that on this podcast, that we're going to have a new CEO. But, it's a lot of just being able to be a part of seeing very smart people coming into a room and just trying to figure things out together is like it's very humbling for me. And so it's taught me a lot about, again, this is not a program where it's traditionally a leadership development program. And also it is a group full of leaders who are just learning from each other all the time about how to work better together and as one unit. And it's really amazing. I'm really always in awe of people who are like, leaders in their field, trying to like work on something bigger than themselves. So it's been probably one of the most difficult and most like interesting programs I've ever been a part of. And difficult not because of the people in it. It's really difficult, just like it's just a new way of learning. It's not just workshops, right? It's not just presentations or whatever. It's a new way of trying to figure out how to learn and work together.
And tell me about coaching. It sounds like that's one of the things that you lean on quite a bit as a modality of learning.
Yeah, we had coaching. It's looked differently. It has looked different at different instances at Instacart. We used to partner with BetterUp, the coaching platform. We've also have partnered with an external coaching vendor who we've recommended, right, as a vendor for our leaders to get coaches with. And I think, to be super frank, I think that coaching as a program, it needs to change often to continue figuring out like how does it meet the needs of the leaders that we work with. I don't know if we've figured it out yet. When I was at Stripe, our coaching program was offering, a wide selection of times and even coaches, for our Pacific, East Coast, APAC, EMEA managers or leaders,
Hmm.
and not just managers. And it was the format of like you can select a coaching session whenever it works for you. So that's like one strategy. Then, there's another strategy of you need to have at least a 3 to 6 month commitment with one coach to see impact, right? There's so many ways to do coaching. And I think we're still trying to figure it out at Instacart. I personally just find it a field that is both like there's a lot of, there's so many coaching programs out there. There's a lot of people getting certified in coaching. It's, I think, a very saturated field, right? There's a lot
Hmm.
going on in it. And so it can sometimes feel to me almost more difficult to figure out like how to find high quality coaching in a way that is accessible to everyone. It's right, not just leaders who are just directors or VPs. It's like, how do we think about coaching for, like I said, leadership? And budgets are also tight, right? How do we figure that out? And not to say this is the right answer all the time, but like that's why we've, all these companies and these places are like, okay, AI coaching. Let's figure out AI coaching. Let's see if we can enable and make coaching more accessible. And we've also have started to pilot that type of approach at Instacart. How do we use the tools that we have already in AI and pilot prompts and like personas, right, for AI coaching?
Hmm.
Um, it's all a pilot, right? And to me, it's about obviously the quality of the coaching and the sort of relationship, like all of that is really important. And also to me, the accessibility, that's like the biggest, for me, the sort of biggest leverage that AI brings is like, can this bring more accessible coaching resources and opportunities to not just your directors, but also like a level 5 IC, right? Or a level like for I see who's new to the company, or even a new frontline manager, right, who is brand new to management, like, and sort of maybe realizing that management is a different set of skills. That's the type of audiences I feel like we miss with like coaching opportunities are not always prioritized. And so how do we thinking about making coaching more democratized and also keep the quality high
Yeah.
is the challenge, right?
Yeah. I love that democratizing coaching. So it's not just for the upper echelon of the C-suite.
Yeah,
And yeah.
right. Yeah.
Very,
Yes.
yeah. Very, very cool. So you started your career as a coordinator, and then
Hmm.
you owned programs, so as program manager, from engineering onboarding all the way to now people and leadership,
Hmm.
people and leadership development. What's next for you? What are you excited about?
Oh gosh, what's next? What is next, Marika? Well, I'm about to go on this 1 month long sabbatical. And this is not me trying to use the podcast to like sell Instacart and to work Instacart, but truly every 4 years at Instacart you get a month off to just like relax and take a break. So I'm gonna go do that after this, which I'm looking forward to. I think what's next for me is continuing to one, figure out this realm of leadership development like I talked to you about. Two, I am really interested in learn how to sort of like lean more into what does AI really look like. Everyone's into AI. I totally get that. I mean that from like I get to learn from these champions I get to work with, and I'll come back to that program when I'm off my sabbatical. Um and to be super honest, I'm gonna kind of see where this all takes me. I just had a baby like less than a year ago. I am a new mom. Yeah. Thank you. I am like so grateful to work at a place that is so flexible and working and has like I have a great manager. I feel very like balanced right now in my work and my life that it's hard for me to think about changing that anytime soon. If
Mm.
anything, it'll just be more exciting new projects in my work and I love my teammates. So I feel very, very, very blessed with where I am right now. And with a 10-month-old, I can hear her yelling for me behind my door. She's kind of my focus right now, along with sort of like making sure I do good work for our champions and for our leadership programs. So we'll see. Always learning something new every day. So it's all about, it's all about the balance, right?
Yeah, got it. That makes it sounds like you're in a great place. So that's
I know it's hard. It's hard for me to say like I'm gonna move and like do this big extra thing. Like I'm really happy, but hey, things can always change, right?
Yeah.
Our world is always changing, especially with AI being the big thing right now.
Yeah, totally. So one final question. What would be a piece of advice you would give to your younger self?
Wow, that you just dropping that. I didn't know that was a question you were going to ask me. Piece of advice I'd give to my younger self. I would say give yourself more credit. Ask for more help than you realize you need. Take more vacation days. Sorry, I'm giving a lot of lists. And just try and see what happens. Just like take the jump. Who knows? I feel like I've taken a lot of risks just trying new things to get to where I am, and I'm really happy about it. So, yeah, that's all kind of cheesy, but I really mean it.
Awesome. Well, that's all I had. Thank you for sharing your story, and it's exciting where you're starting from and where you ended up, and all the things that you're building. So, and congrats on being a new mom.
Thank you, Marco. Thank you for having me here. This is, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Mabel, and yeah, we'll chat soon.
Sounds good.
That's it for this episode of the Intelligence Amplifiers. If you like what you've heard, be sure to subscribe or follow so you don't miss out on the future episodes. And if you're interested in being a guest or have a question, check out the episode description for how to reach us. Also, don't forget to check out Plus Plus, the platform that makes collective intelligence at scale possible. Find out more at plusplus.co. Thank you for listening, and until next time, keep amplifying.